You're wondering if you've been in an emotionally abusive relationship. Perhaps you've lost days, weeks, months watching YouTube videos like this. Maybe you're thinking that it sounds like you were, but you're just not sure. In this video, I'm going to talk about coercive control to help you understand and understand what happened and what you can do next to recover. Welcome to the Divorce Sanctuary. I'm Elizabeth Goddard, author of Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse. On this channel, I talk about healing from emotional abuse and divorcing emotionally from the abuser. I want to remind you that love should be unconditional, divorcing emotionally is life-changing, and that you have a duty of care to yourself, and that should be your mantra. And I want to help you understand and process what's happening inside you, and help you discover the best tools to heal on a deeper level, becoming the best version of yourself. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're returning, welcome back and thank you. You might be wondering if you've been in an emotionally abusive relationship. I remember losing days watching video after video, wondering if the next one would really confirm what had happened to me. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the common examples of coercive behaviour. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do today that will help you stop the rumination that is keeping you trapped. So how do you know if this has been happening to you? Coercive control is described as an act or a pattern of assault carried out through forms of threat, humiliation and intimidation. Some of the examples of coercive control are isolating you from friends and family, or making you feel guilty about spending time with them, depriving you of basic needs such as food, monitoring your time, monitoring you via online communication tools or spyware, taking control over aspects of your everyday life, such as where you can go, who you can see, what you can wear, when you can sleep, depriving you of access to support services such as medical services, repeatedly putting you down, such as saying that you're worthless, humiliating, degrading or dehumanizing you, controlling your finances, making threats or intimidating you. Coercive control is emotional abuse. It is used to harm, punish and frighten the victim. This form of behaviour is used to make the victim dependent on the abuser, isolating them from friends and family. They exploit them and deprive them of their independence, regulate their everyday behaviour. Coercive or controlling behaviour does not relate to one single incident. It's a pattern that occurs over time. It's used for one individual to exert power and control over another. Coercive or controlling behaviour is now a crime in the UK. The law came into force on the 29th of December 2015. Coercive control creates invisible chains. People might ask why you didn't leave earlier or why you didn't see what was going on. On some level, you did know that there was something wrong with the relationship. However, during the cycle of abuse, there was a point where you lost who you were, and your focus was more on protecting the relationship than protecting yourself. It was these invisible chains that stopped you from walking away. The fake future stopped you from moving on. You're waiting for the next hit of oxytocin you received during the love bombing. You found yourself in a world manufactured by the abuser. You found yourself living in confusion and fear. They isolated you from friends and family, or they made you feel guilty for spending time with them. They may have faked an illness or needed to work. They may suggest you shouldn't go because the last time you went you were upset. They may point out the problems with these people. They might say things like the problem with your family is, or your friends just demand too much of you. The abuser might leave the gathering telling you stories of what they saw and leaving you confused as you didn't see the same thing. You didn't feel the atmosphere or hear the conversation, And it's so unlike this family member or friend to behave in that way. The emotional abuser isolates you from friends and family, creating scenarios that are either not true or only half the truth. They need control over your life to ensure that you won't leave them, that you will fulfill their needs and support them. They can't risk you speaking to other people in case they have an influence over you. This is part of their need to control you fully. They may monitor your time, and this might be in the way of checking your phone or monitoring you on social media, see what you've done during the day, wanting to know why it took you so long or longer than normal to get home from work, or what you've done during the day whilst they've been out working. Some install cameras in the house, put tracking devices on cars, or use spyware on the computers and laptops. By monitoring your time and isolating you, they ensure that you have nobody in your life apart from them. You feel intimidated and under threat, walking on eggshells. Their need to control affects your life. You might even question and doubt yourself, and many people find at the end of the relationship they're constantly second-guessing themselves. The abuser perhaps controlled where you could go, who you could see, what you could wear, when you could sleep, depriving you of access to support services, such as medical services. They may have put you down, criticising you or saying you're worthless. You may have noticed the things that they said they admired you for at the beginning of the relationship have changed, and now it was something they criticised you for. You may have questioned it at the time and were told that you were too sensitive or that they were only joking, but they brought it up again and again and again. They slowly knocked away at your self-esteem. It makes the abuser feel better about themselves. You may have experienced humiliation by your abuser or heard degrading remarks. They may have dehumanized you, calling you this one or she or he, removing your name. People who are higher up on the narcissistic spectrum, who have higher narcissistic traits, don't see people, they see objects. They objectify everybody in their life. You might have experienced them controlling your finances. Financial abuse seldom happens in isolation. In most cases, perpetrators use other abusive behaviours to threaten and reinforce their financial abuse. It's the misuse of money, controlling their partner. It could include credit cards without permission, putting contractual obligations in the partner's name, or gambling away with the family assets. Financial abuse leaves people with no money for basic essentials, such as food or clothing, without access to their own bank accounts, with no access or any independent income, and with debts that have been built up by the abusive partner set against their name. Even when a survivor has left the home, financial control can still be exerted by the abuser with regard to child maintenance. Sadly, the vast majority of survivors experience financial abuse at some point. To the outside world, the abuser is generous. They flaunt their money. It's only the people in their tribe that understand the truth. You might have discovered that they stole from you. They don't understand why you believe this is wrong. In their world, what's yours is theirs. Any financial gifts or inheritance you receive, they told you that they should be responsible. And they may even suggest that other family members have raised concerns about the way that you behave with money. So you might be wondering if you have been in an emotionally abusive relationship. It is very likely that you didn't realise that you were, or the invisible chains were holding you there. It would be amazing if it was just as simple now to be able to walk away, but it isn't. And it takes time to untangle from these chains that have held you for so long. Being a narcissist isn't against the law, but coercive control is. They use trauma bonding to keep you in the relationship with tools like gaslighting, which is a covert way of distorting your perception of reality. This is crazy making, leaving you unable to trust yourself or your perception of reality. You start to believe the abuser's version of events, and slowly they begin to take over your life. Gaslighting was used to make you feel that something was wrong with you. They used tactics to deflect from their behaviour, making you feel that you were mentally unstable or that you were overreacting. For people coming out of these toxic relationships, it can cause emotional confusion and anxiety. And a lot of people suffer a complex post-traumatic stress disorder. You may have started to wonder what was happening or question your own judgment. When you experience any form of anxiety or go through a prolonged period of stress, your brain goes into survival mode. You can't make decisions. You can barely look after yourself. Cognitive dissonance or gaslighting is a very unique experience for each individual. This is very different from a normal breakup, be it romantic, friendship, or a family member or work colleague. Only a person that has gone through this very specific form of abuse will understand how deep this trauma runs. Understanding the cycle of abuse, the gaslighting and other tactics that have been used helps you make a sense of everything. This form of abuse penetrates on so many different levels, so many layers, and your brain was tricked to believe what you were told was the truth. And it takes time to de-traumatize. It's so easy to slip back down into that dark hole when you're faced with new facts or new situations. You were never going to get the closure that you needed, and this is part of the game. Gaslighting is very dangerous, creating the feelings of insecurity, confusion, brain fog, self-doubt, fear, not feeling good enough, feeling vulnerable or powerless. Emotional abusers feel entitled to special treatment, and they're usually easily offended and hold grudges. They lack empathy or consideration for others. They're basically children in adult bodies, unable to take responsibility for their actions and anyone who disagrees with them or their unreasonable expectations might be subjected to narcissistic rage. There are 7 levels of anger, but narcissistic rage goes from 0 to 7 in an instant. The unmet needs of the child meant that they were unable to master critical emotional development. I discovered many years ago that you could understand the age their trauma happened. In certain situations, they reverted to that child. And if you think back, you might be able to recall the age. When they were threatened or they perceived danger, you might have noticed the way they walked or if they talked in a childish way. The emotional abuser can't take responsibility for their actions. And if you've been discarded by one, it's likely that you took the blame for the breakdown of the relationship. So it's unlikely that they're going to get a diagnosis for narcissism. A healthy person can see they've made mistakes and they will try to correct them, hold their hands up and say, yes, I'm sorry. They don't do everything in their power to prove there's nothing wrong with them, putting the blame on another person. I said at the beginning of the video, I would give you 3 things you can do today that will help you stop the rumination that's keeping you trapped. How do you know if this has been happening to you? Coercive control is described as an act or a pattern of assault carried out through forms of threats, humiliation, and intimidation. And some of the common examples of coercive behaviour are isolating you from friends and family, or making you feel guilty for spending time with them, depriving you of basic needs such as food, monitoring your time, monitoring you via online communication tools or spyware, taking control over aspects of your everyday life, such as where you can go, who you can see, what you can wear, or when you can sleep. Depriving you of access to support services such as medical services, repeatedly putting you down, such as saying you're worthless, humiliating, degrading or dehumanizing you, controlling your finances, making threats or intimidating you. If you're trying to understand what you've been through is emotional abuse, when you heard the list, how many things did you relate to? Coming out of these relationships, you have more questions than answers. And it's easy to slip into rumination, which is a process of continuously thinking about the same thoughts, which tend to be sad or dark. Rumination can be dangerous to your mental health. It prolongs your ability to think and process those emotions. So the first thing you can do is ground into your body. Staying out of your head and into your body is going to help you process what's happening, what has been happening. Breathing and counting is the second thing. This balances the stress hormones and it calms down your nervous system. And the third thing is write out your story. When you can see it written down and you're in your body, you're grounded, you can see this as abuse. And it gives you permission to call it abuse. You might have been protecting the abuser and justifying their behaviour. The reason they treated you the way they did, and make the excuse, tag that onto the end. Most of us have experienced some form of trauma during our lives, but we don't treat people in this same way. With the story, you can remind yourself it was abuse. And when you call it what it is, your healing speeds up. I hope you found this video helpful. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. And I will put a link to my video Stop Rumination Now in the description box below, along with a link to my free workbook, Self-Care is Vital. I'm sending you loads and loads of love.